Good morning, y'all. It's flipping cold this morning. I've got my flipping gloves on that I've modified so I can use my phone. Cut it back a bit too far. I cut it perfect and then the fabric fluffed out around the thumb and now it's like my whole thumb is nearly sticking out. Anyway, today I want to talk about a mother flippin' paradox that is really important when it comes to trauma and sorting trauma out and making sure to how to break out of patterns and things like this. These two things sound like they contradict each other, but they don't, because you kind of do them sequentially. And there's there's an order to it, and there's a way of doing it, and all this sort of thing. And if you wanted to learn more about that, I know programs that I've paid for that by other people, which are I've found really useful, and you just have to ask me about that. I wish I got paid for that. That'd be dope. Anyway, just they're really good programs. So there's two things, right? It's and they kind of contradict each other if you have a small kind of mind and you can't see the big picture of it all. One of them is to deal with the past. You need to think about the past and process it. The other paradox is that the mind cannot not think about something. It can only think about something and then choose. Once it's got an image of what not to think about, then it can choose not to think about it. Once it knows what it's not meant to think about. As an example, the classic example, and all of the self-help people, don't think of a pink elephant. Don't think of a hot cup of tea. Well, the minute I say hot cup of tea or pink elephant or whatever it might be that I say, you need to imagine a hot cup of tea or a pink elephant first, and then you can choose to think of something else instead, right? So that's how the mind works. You can't not think of something. So as an example, some people might say, I don't, like a really classic one that even I've gone through myself is, I don't want to have a bad partner. So what I did was, I'd have a checklist of what I don't want. And when I meet a girl or talk to a girl or whatever, I would be going through the checklist, right? Now, I don't want it to be like this, and this. But really what I'm doing is looking for those things. I'm looking for those things. Instead, what I've learned to do is to look for the things that I do want, in particular the ones that cancel out the things I don't want. I don't want her to be crazy. I should stop looking for I don't want them to be crazy and start looking for I want them to be calm, focused. I want them to communicate with me. I want them to try and see things from my perspective as hard as I try to see things from their perspective. Within reason, I want them to be stable. See, these are all things that I want that cancel out so many, what's the opposite to those things, right? So the mind can't not think of something. It has to first think of something, and then it can think about it. It can choose not to think about it, right? Now, the reason why that's important, why it's a paradox with the first point being you need to work through your problems, basically, right? Is that in order to in my situation, in that example that I just gave, I would have the same, there would be a pattern of things. And there were lots of other things, not to say every girl I dated was crazy, but sometimes I would even bring it up out of them. So I would cause them to be crazy because I'm sitting there waiting for it. Because that's my reality, is that any moment now she's just going to snap, and then I'm going to see the real her, you know what I mean? So, yeah. And I would draw that towards me. Because all the cute, nice, lovely girls would be, I wouldn't be, they wouldn't pique my attention. Because I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for what I don't want, so that I can say, no, I don't want that. I mean, it's kind of complicated to explain, but hopefully that makes some lick of sense. So this is where the whole think positive thoughts comes from, right? So say I went through some trauma. Something really nasty happened to me. Well, thinking about it too much is actually going to cause me anxiety, and it's going to affect my life, right? But only, so on the one hand, I should really try to stay focused on what I'm trying to do and not let those thoughts enter my mind. But that's only true if I'm thinking about the trauma in the incorrect way. If I'm thinking about the trauma in such a way that I'm able to accept the trauma, accept what's happened to me in the past, and move forwards from there, and realize that I don't need it to control my life anymore, for example, then from that point, I've thought about it in the correct way, I've unraveled it in the correct way, and so now it loses its power over me. It's kind of like I'm sure that there was a time where if someone called you a mother flippin' idiot, mind my French, in I guess the 40s or something, someone might pull a knife on you because those words are really offensive. But these days, if someone calls you a mother flippin' idiot, then you can be like, okay, the words don't have the same sort of power over you. If the words don't have the same sort of power over you, then you're not going to be as triggered, and if you're not as triggered, then life just sort of flows on from there like that never happened, because it really doesn't matter unless you genuinely did something stupid that you need to rectify, right? But coming to that's because you accept it's just a word, it doesn't mean anything, it's just a descriptive word. They don't like you, right? So being able to accept, being able to come to a point where you can accept the trauma that's happened to you in your past, take all the lessons from that trauma, so you don't repeat it and you know what to look for, but without the emotional charge, aka anxiety. If you remove the anxiety from that emotional charge, from that traumatic event, that traumatic memory, because you can only, that traumatic event doesn't exist anymore. It only exists in your memory now, and in the memory of anyone else who was involved in it, right? It doesn't really exist anymore. So really it's only you who is giving that memory charge. So you need to be able to think about these things in a way that you can release it. And there are lots and lots and lots and lots of different ways that you can release that emotional charge. So there are different types of meditations, different type of traditional therapies, different types of language patterns like NLP and stuff. There are different types of hypnosis. There are so many different ways that if you actually want to get over trauma, there's online courses. I don't know how effective those ones are because that's sort of a blanket statement, but I know the one that I took up really, really incredibly helped me, really in a big, big way. So there are ways to release that trauma so that it no longer has an emotional charge, because you don't need the emotion behind it anymore. You just need to learn the lessons and go, cool, that happened to me. The same way, you know, the old fire thing, you put your hand in the fire, you learn not to touch fire because it's flipping hot and hurts you. But you don't look at fire and feel anxiety towards it unless, you know, normal fire, unless you have you're in a bushfire or something crazy. You know, you can look at a fire and just go, don't put my hand there. Don't do it, and I'll be okay, right? Check out my 3-finger glove. How good is that? You know, you can. That's basically where you want to be. Now, fire, for example, could be really traumatic, like just a campfire. If you were warming yourself and you really burnt yourself, but you know, a year or two later, you can look back on it and just go, I just did the wrong thing. I put my hand too close, put my butt too close. I was too close, and I got physically injured from it. Don't do that again. No emotional charge. And every single traumatic event in your life can be converted into this way, but only if you can. But if you only think about it on a surface level, right, then you'll be triggered. You'll be triggered by it for the rest of your life. So this is where the paradox comes in, where you both simultaneously have to be able to think about it in the correct way, with or without a therapist. It doesn't matter. Therapists might be able to guide you in the best way, but at the end of the day, it's you who has to do the work. It's not, the therapist cannot control your mind, a hypnotherapist cannot control your mind, a meditation instructor can't control your mind. It's you doing the work, right? But if you just think about it and just enough to get triggered, then what it will do, it's called fractionation in hypnosis, where the more you, it builds the charge, it builds it up. In hypnosis, every time you go into hypnosis, you can become hypnotized more easily. It's sort of like practice, I guess. And in the same way, you can fractionate your trauma, the emotional charge behind your trauma. For example, you think about it, just enough to get triggered, just enough to have that anchor come up and you feel hurt, scared, anxious, whatever, and then you try to distract yourself because it's too overwhelming. Then when you go to now, your brain goes, when you think about this emotional charge, you'll think, when I think about this, the emotional charge is going to build up, so your body kind of prepares yourself to have the emotional charge, and then you have the emotional charge, which reinforces the emotional charge, right? And that's why there are times when distraction is much better, so that you don't even reach that level. If you're thinking about, if you don't know how to approach trauma, right? And I'll be honest, there's trauma in my life that I don't know fully how to approach, and I don't quite know how to release. Most of my trauma I've released. There is some trauma that I haven't released, because I've tried and I don't know how. But I'm constantly trying new things, constantly trying out new ways of releasing it. I'm not giving up on myself, and when I fail at it, I'm just like, oh well, I'll come back to that, and I always do, because I know that I'm worth that, and I know that the people around me are worth me being my best, so that my best will rub off on other people when I hang out with them. And I see it in people, and I know anyone who's hung out with me and talked about anything particularly deep know what I'm talking about, right? So that's the paradox. That's the two paradoxes. You have to be able to think about things so that you can release them. You simultaneously have to think positively and not think about them. Hopefully this video is a short video, 15 minutes. Oh, loady, load. That is a good one. 15-minute video. Hopefully that makes a lot of sense to you guys, and I hope you have a fantastic day, and let me know about what your thoughts are on this, because I just watched a video that inspired me to make this one. Have a great day, guys. Bye. Bye.